Now, the Blur Gallery is a brand new feature in Photoshop CS6, and I gotta say that after having played with it, I'm not real sure that it's the preferred method for applying blur to an image, much less sections of an image. I think it's a lot easier to do with layers and masks, but be that as it may, I'll go ahead and show it to you anyway. You click on the filter drop down list, come down to blur, and then you'll see these three blurs up here. These are brand new in Photoshop CS6. Let's start with the field blur, and when we click on it, we see this control box that comes up to the right hand side of the workspace, and we're going to start with field blur, and you'll notice this little target, floating target dealy-wop in the image, and we can move these around anywhere we want them to be. Let's put another one right here, and we're going to put another one right here. Now, in order to make the eyes sharp, we grab this little slider on the outside and we move it to where it says 0. And then that gets rid of all the blur. And what I did not do was to set this overall blur on the image to demonstrate this. So let's go back. See what I'm saying? I mean, you got to deal with these little control things here, and by my way of thinking, it's just a lot easier to do layers and masks. So here's the third one, and I'm going to increase the blur here, and you'll be able to see the transition between this area of the image and this area of the image right about here. It's a very sharp delineation, and I can bring this out to the corner to kind of smooth out the gradation between heavy blur and no blur. And then as I increase the blur, you can see how that works. So it necessitates that you come in and play with it in order to really get a feel for how you're going to use it and how it works. Let's move now to the iris blur. Check that out, and you'll notice a little bit of a complicated target here, and we can move this around as well. And what this does is you come in here, and I'll increase that blur so you can see what's going on. Now, you can change the shape of this big circle. You can drag this down to an oval shape to more or less fit the face, and we can drag this out to delineate where the blur begins, and the blur is gradually applied between this area and this area. These little dots right here dictate how sharp that division is going to be between an unblurred area and a blurred area. So if I move this real close to the center, you can see how the blur begins to move towards the center, and the gradation between full blur and zero blur is this space right here. We can move this back again, and so on. But once again, I ask the question, this is a lot of work for what would be a whole lot easier in layers and masks. Now, the next blur, tilt shift, I want to change the image, but as I click on this image, I can't do it. In order to load that other image, I've got to cancel out this entire blur gallery, load the image, then load the blur gallery again. What a pain in the rear that is. Okay, here's tilt shift, and this is a little better than the other two, but I still say it's a lot easier to do with layers and masks, but here we go. Let's go ahead and turn this up, and you can see kind of what we're doing. Okay, and then we can move these little bars, and again, these are spacers between no blur and full blur. This dictates how gradual the effect fades in and out of different regions of the image. So we'll pull this up here, and then we hit OK, and the effect is applied. Makes it look like a miniature. So that's the blur gallery, brand new feature in Photoshop CS6. Not recommended as far as I am concerned personally, but you might like it.